which brings in the head of the police, the head of the intelligence, the head of the military, and cabinet secretaries in those dockets. Did you have information prior to Tuesday that there was going to be infiltration of the peaceful demonstrations by the criminal elements that you've talked about more than once? And if you did, what did you do about it?
We had information, and that is why we prepared in the manner in which we did. If we hadn't prepared in the manner in which we did, we would not be counting 19. We would be counting different numbers.
Okay.
And I am telling you that the level of mobilization by criminals was heavy. In fact, many of the peaceful protesters, many of the young people, very well-meaning young people, left the town by 10, maybe 11, because they realized, and in fact you could hear them in their Zelo. They were saying, guys, this is not our group. Let us go. Let us leave. You could hear them. It was in public domain that the peaceful demonstrators all of a sudden realized that the whole thing had metamorphosed into criminality.
So there were criminal elements that basically hijacked. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it is Sunday. Mr. President, how many people are in custody on account of this? Those who you said they conducted treasonous activities, there were criminal elements.
You will see them in court tomorrow.
How many people are in custody?
You will see them in court tomorrow. The police know what I have a ballpark brief by the police that they have enough people. They have actually, because in Kenya nowadays, you cannot commit crime and get away with it. Those who attacked Parliament are on CCTV. Those who attacked the judiciary are on CCTV. Those who attacked everywhere, those who destroyed people's shops are on CCTV. Many of them are on the run, but we will catch them.
Similarly, Your Excellency.
Are the funders
similarly, Your Excellency.
In
similarly.
To your question, so the police are at it, because if we don't deal with impunity, we will not have a country.
Now, similarly, Your Excellency, you speak of them, protesters being on CCTV.
Not the protesters, I'm saying the criminals who attacked Parliament.
Right. Now, every policeman also, without uniform, conducted an abduction, has also been captured on camera. Those who captured Shad Kiprono were captured on camera. Those who captured Alfred Keter today were captured on camera. And a number of other such incidents. Similarly, so that because I can hear you balancing.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, are we going to see action against the killer cops, or were they doing what you are saying you had to do to prevent this from being bad?
Any killer cop who went beyond what is provided for in the law, action will be taken against them. But to your question, are you telling me, Linus, that a police officer becomes only a police officer when they are in uniform? No. Police officers can identify themselves even when they are in civilian. So, and when a police officer comes to you and says, this is my ID, I am police officer, you are under arrest for the following reasons, that is legitimate. You cannot tell me that because they were in civilian, then what they did was wrong.
And that's not what they do.
And
that's not what they did to Alfred Keter or Shad Kiprono.
Were you there?
We have the CCTV footage. It's there.
I would suggest, Linus, that we be fair to the police as well.
Mr.
And I have given you my word. Any police officer who does anything beyond the provisions of the law know the consequences. Just as any citizen who also participates in actions that are outside the law, they also know the consequences. And it is our responsibility to make sure that security agencies act in accordance with the law. As citizens, we act in accordance with the law so that we can have a law-abiding, rules-based rule of law-based country.
As things stand now, Mr. President, are you satisfied with how the police handled this whole matter?
I think the police have done the best they could. If there are any excesses, we have mechanisms to make sure that those excesses are dealt with.
Let's wrap it this way, Your Excellency, on that topic. You have absolutely no regrets about the abductions and no regrets about the killings?
Those are your words. Those are not mine.
They're also your deputy's words.
Don't put words in my mouth.
They're also your deputy's words, and he's part of your government, because it's so scary, Mr. President, sitting there and telling the whole country that from this moment on, we should not believe what your deputy tells us about the state of the nation until you speak. Yet we all thought that you're part of the same government.
Don't inject my deputy into this conversation. I think it is not fair, since he's not here, to tell you in what context he said whatever he said. I think it is not proper to discuss the deputy president here, and he's my deputy. Please let me deal.
But have you asked him that you had a press conference?
Let me deal with the issues as they are now. I think being personal and going that direction does not help.
I wish this was personal, Mr. President, but it's a really serious national issue that right after you spoke, your deputy told the whole world that he was informing us that extrajudicial killings and abductions had returned to this government that he's part of. How surely can that be personal, Mr. President?
I am sure that if you interview the deputy president, he will answer that appropriately.
You haven't asked him?
You can take it from me that extrajudicial killing will not be part of an administration that I run. I can say that without fear of contradiction.
Yes, in the interest of moving this conversation forward, Your Excellency, I want us to look into the last 2 extraordinary weeks that this country has had. Protests that you called tribeless and some of your aides call leaderless. But protests that are led by young people who are unhappy with how you've run this country for the last just under 2 years now. But the question they have as they look at you and watch as you speak today, Your Excellency, do you get it?
I get it. Let me tell you, my good friend Linus, what we are facing today is not a product of 2 years. What we are facing today is a product of many years. We've had a problem, a youth bulge, a demographic challenge as a nation, which we have ignored for very long. For the first time, I have decided that I am going to be deliberate, I am going to be intentional on tackling the challenge of young people and unemployment in Kenya. First time, there is an administration that thinks about the young people. Let me give you 3 examples, maybe 4.
Well, let's keep it within the 2 weeks, please.
No, it's okay. It's the 2 weeks.
Yes.
But don't look at the 2 weeks in isolation. The young people we have in the street did not happen in the last 2 weeks. They were not born when I became president. They were not jobless when I became. They did not become jobless when I became president.
But I want us to.
These are young people who, over the years, we have close to 4.5 million young people who are out of school, out of college, with degrees, certificates, diplomas, without jobs. And that is why I have done 4 things. Number 1, when I pushed the housing program, it was not about the houses, it was about the jobs. Today, as I talk to you, Linus, we have 160,000 young people working in different parts of Kenya under our housing program. In Mukuru, here in Nairobi, and I challenge you, Linus, to go there tomorrow, there are close to 4,000 young people working who were jobless. Number 2, I have a whole program on digital jobs. I was in Ruto
now,
with the MP for Just allow me.
Allow me to interrupt you.
No, allow me.
There are risks on both ends of this interview.
No, you told me about
Your Excellency,
the young people.
Talk about the last 2 weeks. The young people are saying, you don't get it. You don't understand what they are talking about. Now, what is the trigger here? They're saying there was this conversation about the finance bill that your government, until the other day, could not listen to anybody. It's not about the housing project. It's about listening. They are saying yours is not a listening presidency, and yours is not a listening government.
How best can I listen to the young people of Kenya if I am not addressing their issues? And that is why I want to tell you, Linus, these young people, what is their biggest issue? They have talents. They have gone to school. They have no jobs. That is the problem. And I am addressing those issues. Housing is one of them. Digital jobs is another. I was in Ruto with Simon Kingara, the MP for Ruto, launching an ICT hub that is actually hiring already 5,000 young people. Our whole plan, including what was in the finance bill, was to increase CDF by 10 billion shillings to roll out ICT hubs in every ward in the Republic of Kenya, so that we can hire young people, train them, put them on digital jobs. I have a third program on export of labor.
Mr. President,
I have a fourth program on manufacturing, to be able to create more opportunities for the young people of our country.
And we want to inform you, they're no longer just talking about things that can be done to them as a demographic. They are looking at the big picture. Finance bill brought them out. And when did they come in? They came in after all public participation forums were not listened to. Kenya Association of Manufacturers spoke to the parliamentary committee, same thing, and said this is a bad bill. Association of Insurance spoke to the parliamentary team, this is a bad bill. We had a big conversation on national television, this is a bad bill. You did not listen. You had a meeting here with your UDA MPs, and at some point told them to pass it as it is. And until the last week, that was the first Tuesday when the protests were there, when now you offered to some amendments. They're saying you're just not listening, and it's not about them, it's about the big picture issues, and we'll come to them, including the question of corruption, which is not really a youth thing.
Indeed, Mr. And just to add on to that, Mr. President, respectfully,
been more
Mr. President, I just want to come in
your analysis.
I just want to add on to that, Mr.
Because
I want to add on to
because let me just finish it.
It's the same question. It's the same question. Mr. President, if you went into all the X spaces where the youth are speaking, if you looked at the demonstrations and what they were saying, the placards they are carrying, none of them has talked about we don't have jobs. None of them have talked about the housing jobs are not enough for us. None of them have talked anything about what you have mentioned. So it's not that they are not seeing about the jobs. It is beyond that, Mr. President. And respectfully, I want to put it to you that you're not hearing what they're saying.
In fact, only heard after the protests, after all those things you described, that's the time that you came and said,
let me tell you the following. The rejection of the finance bill, and this goes to what Linus has said, that we didn't hear anything. Let me tell you, the process of a finance bill, in fact, many people believe in Kenya that the finance bill is an invention of William Ruto. It is not an invention of William Ruto. The finance bill is an instrument that has been with us ever since independence. Only that we have made it much more transparent. Only that we have brought out more to the public. And that is why there is greater interrogation of what government is doing, especially after the new constitution that made public participation not a sterile provision of the constitution, but public participation to be an integral part of lawmaking, an integral part of managing the country. Let me tell you, when we took the bill when we formulated the bill, it had 346 billion of new revenue. When MPs went out to the public said, we don't think this is good. We don't think this is good. It was reduced by 140 something billion shillings. It remained just 200 billion. Doesn't that amount to listening?
No, it doesn't.
That the public said, reduce this by...
No, it doesn't,
no.
Mr. President. And that's why
Okay.
I said reject it.
Just wait.
tells you
Just wait.
that they're not-
No, we are talking about listening.
Yeah.
Just relax. We're talking about listening, okay? So the public said, reduce this by 146. We sat down, we cut down the areas, we reduced it to 200. What went into the space was the people who wanted to mislead the public, to say, oh, you see, in fact, everything you have been told is still there. This was not removed. These people are not listening. These people are not listening. And let me tell you, my good friend Latif, we have dropped the finance bill. Yeah? What does that mean? It means we have gone back almost 2 years. It means that this year we are going to borrow 1 trillion shillings to be able to run our government. That's what it means. I have been working very hard to pull Kenya out of a debt trap.
Mr. President.
Just allow me. Because, we need to contextualize this finance bill. It is easy, Joe. It is easy for us as a country to say, let us reject the finance bill. That's fine. And I have graciously said, we will drop the finance bill. But it has huge consequences. It means we will not confirm the JSS teachers, 46,000 of them. It means we cannot support our farmers with 2 billion shillings for us to make sure that farmers get a fair return of 50 shillings per kilogram, per kilo of their milk. It means we cannot sort out the coffee debts. It means we cannot support the cherry fund. It means we cannot sort out the debts of farmers in Mumias. It also means that we will continue to import potatoes from Europe when we have potatoes in his village. You just told me in Kimana. We have potatoes in Nyandarua. We have onions all over the place.
That may well be. I think the problem has been, these are people who are saying they haven't been listened to. You only listened because you said on that night, on that Wednesday night, that is the moment you said that you had realized, Mr. President, that Kenyans did not want anything to do with that bill. And one would wonder, how can that be, Mr. President? And you have had all these presentations that have been made. Did it have to take demonstrations and sadly loss of lives for you to come to a point where you'd realize what your people, the people that voted for you, are saying? That, I think, is what the young people are asking.
Let me tell you, Joe, members of parliament are representatives of the people, elected. They are not fools. And they are not mad. And I want to say, one day, Kenya will know that the MPs who voted yes are the true heroes of Kenya. Those are the people who saw the opportunity for us to unchain our country from debt trap and take our country to the future. Let me tell you, Joe, and I want to say this to the people of Kenya, that my plan was to make sure that in the next 3 years, maximum 4 years, we have a balanced budget, where Kenya is not the country where we are today. Let me tell you, gentlemen, and I want to tell the people of Kenya the following. We are in a very difficult financial position. This is something that the people of Kenya must understand. And that is why I am happy that we have a crisis. This crisis will help us be candid and speak to each other properly and contextualize where we are. We raised this year 2.3 trillion from our taxes. Of that 2.3 trillion, 1.1 trillion went to debt financing. 1 trillion went to salaries. What did we do? We had to go and borrow to pay the counties. We had to go and borrow to fund our education. We had to go and borrow to fund. Now, the funding gap we have done with the finance bill going down is that instead of borrowing 600 billion, we are going to borrow 600 billion plus 346 billion. That is close to $1 trillion. And let me tell you, my good friends, and I want us to be honest with ourselves. This is not how a country will get to a status where we are proud of our nation. This is not how we are going to. This is not how we are going to grow. And that is why, Linus, this situation, this crisis is a very important inflection point that we can sit together, assess. Let us agree, and I have no problem. Let us agree.
Yeah.
Do we continue borrowing? And let me give you the statistics. When in 2013, Linus, just allow me 1 minute, please, with a lot of respect.
Okay.
In 2013, the debt stock of Kenya was 1.8 trillion. For 10 years, that increased 5 times to 11 trillion, 10 point something trillion. We built a lot of roads. We connected a lot of electricity. We did many things in 10 years. But we were doing it on debt. Today, we don't have the luxury to borrow because we have reached the limit. And today, let me finish. Today, all the money we borrowed from 2013 is maturing. That is why the biggest challenge that we have as a nation is that we are spending 1.1 trillion every year of taxes we collect from ordinary Kenyans to pay debt, and not the whole debt.
That's
interest alone.
Yeah.
Interest principal comes to 1.8 trillion this year.
So, my good friends, and yet you want to tell me, William Ruto, don't collect domestic taxes. Go borrow more money.
No, Mr.
That's
President.
not what they're saying, President. And
What is the alternative?
yeah, and I just wanted to come to one.
No, what is the alternative? Just help me there.
Yeah.
Because there are only two things you can do. Either you raise money from taxes or you borrow. Period. There is no magic here.
There are Kenyans, Your Excellency, right now who do not listen to all that.
Yes.
They are not interested in that.
That's okay, but that's the reality.
But I need
If you are not, if you do not want to listen to
hang
reality,
on, Your Excellency, hang on, Your Excellency, because I need you to address a very important issue here, and that is one of a trust deficit. There are Kenyans who watch you, Your Excellency, and I don't know whether you are aware that they don't trust what you say. They don't believe what you say. Are you aware, Your Excellency, for example, that a lot of Kenyans increasingly don't associate the truth with you?
that is your assessment because you have never associated the truth with me from the beginning.
No, there's quite a number of Kenyans.
No, I mean, that is your assessment.
We asked people before we came here this
That's your
evening.
assessment.
Yeah.
And many of those that responded to me directly and to even our platforms on KTNNews, on Spice FM, on NTV, on Citizen, and we were asking them, what question should we ask the president this evening? And the one thing that many of them were saying is, when will he stop lying? So it's not Linus.
Can you tell us the truth this time?
Let me say the following. I told the people of Kenya that I would reduce the prices of fertilizer from 7,000 to 2,500. I don't know how that is a lie, because they buy it at 2,500.
Okay.
I told the people of Kenya we're going to have a housing program. A housing program is underway in Kenya. I can tell you, Linus, that whether you believe me or not, facts will not change.
Yeah, and
Facts are not changed by who says it.
And allow me
Facts
to
are
step back a bit, Your
and
Excellency.
facts are very stubborn.
Allow me to step back a bit.
Yes.
And what I'll do is we'll play clips, just a little combination of clips of yourself speaking not too long ago, and I want us to listen to that. I'll stand out of the way because you said it's me that doesn't share the truth with you, and I would like you to respond to yourself, to the clips that we are going to play.
But you see, Linus,
let's watch that, Your Excellency.
I think, Linus,
yeah.
You don't bring clips that are in a biased way. You select maybe something that has not happened.
Yeah.
Can you be fair and select clips across the board? What I said and has been done, and what I said and maybe has not been done.
So let's watch that. Maybe you can watch that. Yeah.
These people don't understand the damage they are doing to the people and the economy of Kenya. Kwa hii taxes wanaongeza usiku na mchana. Na mimi nataka niwaulize watu wa hapa Manga, tafadhali, mkiona tumesimama hapa mbele yenu, tunawaambia kwamba tutengeneze hiyo serikali inakuja ambayo inaelewa lugha ya mwananchi wa kawaida. If you have good ideas, why do you need a police? Why do you need blackmail? Why do you need intimidation? If you have better ideas, sell them to the people of Kenya. There are enough intelligent people in Kenya to differentiate what is good from what is better and what is best. Ni jambo mbaya sana kama tutatumia askari polisi kuumiza wananchi wasio na hatia, eti kwa sababu wako na maoni tofauti ya kisiasa.
I agree with that. It is not fair to use the police to harass citizens who have a contrary opinion. And that is perfect.
That's what they're accusing you of.
I still believe that.
That's what they're accusing you of.
But you don't tell me that... What is the problem with Alfred Keter?
Yeah. Is that a contrary opinion?
No, it's not a contrary opinion. I mean, the police have said why they arrested him. It is not because of me. I didn't give any instructions. I didn't even know what was going on. Let me tell you, Linus, I am a very clear-minded person on what I say. When it is the police, I have said, many of the people who opposed me, many of the people who were very scared about what I would do when I become president, even the people who did worse things against me, I have never gone after them because I don't believe in settling political scores using the power of state or using the police. Let me also say the following. When I talked about the taxes that I was
on the campaign trail, yes.
I was addressing in the campaign trail, it was very obvious that when at that time we were in subsidies, that did not make sense. It is because I removed the subsidies and I changed and put production support. That is why today the price of unga has come down from 240 to 100, because I changed the model. I changed the configuration, and it is giving us results.
But are you aware, Mr. President, that the thing, perhaps apart from now the police brutality that people associate you the most, is the issue of taxes? I'm sure you know the name they call you. You've actually talked about it even yourself. This guy that they want to come down.
Let me tell you, my good brother, Ageo. When I came into office and I assessed the situation, and it was no longer possible for us to borrow money, I had to be honest with the people of Kenya. I had to tell them we have two options, right? And even as we imposed taxes, we explained, we made sure that there was adequate, elaborate public participation on what it is that we were trying to achieve. And let me tell you the following. I have done the best that I could globally. Today, our country has tremendous respect from many quarters globally. because of what I have done. I have raised the profile of our country. Today, I was in Narok, and the tourism numbers in 2022, 1 million tourists. In 2023, last year, 2 million tourists. This year, by God's grace, we will get to 2.7 million tourists because of the profile that I have done for the country. I know somebody will say that, that there is no truth in that, but call the tourism sector. They will tell you themselves that all hotels in Kenya today are operating 80% upwards, which is a new phenomenon in Kenya. I will also tell you that the international community have developed enormous confidence in Kenya. I see people who are saying, why did William Ruto go to China? Why did William Ruto go to Europe? Why did William Ruto go to America? Let me just tell you the following. When I went to China, we got money to be able to put equipment in 70 of our technical training colleges. Today, the contract has been signed, the equipment is being manufactured. When I went to China, we got money to build Bosto Dam that has been waiting, that will serve the counties of Bomet and Kericho. When I went to China, we got money to build, we got 30 billion shillings to build roads in Nyandarua, in Kirinyaga, in 8 other constituencies in Kenya. That's why I went to China. When I went to America, we got a $1 billion facility to be built in Naivasha that is going to be the biggest data center in Africa, funded by UAE, working with Microsoft and Kenya. When I went to the US, we also agreed Kenya became the only country in Africa that is going to benefit from the CHIPS Act, where we will be manufacturing computer chips with other countries. Kenya will be among the first, will be actually the only country in Africa that will benefit from that. And so many of the young people who I see today, those are my targets for the future.
So it doesn't bother you that there's this tag on your head as a president who has overtaxed Kenyans, and that the sufferings that we are going through is because of excessive taxation that you have imposed on Kenyans? That is what I was asking about.
You see, if I am called Zakayo, yeah, because I have explained to the people of Kenya that the option we have is, if we continue borrowing, we will go down the cliff. If that is what is going to take Kenya to be saved from a debt default, I don't mind being called Zakayo, because it is a sacrifice worth making.
Mr. President, every morning on Spice FM, we have 4 hours of a talk show. And many times we ask people, even those who come to the show, to tell us what is it that the nation is saying when we are seeing people out on the streets. And many of them, even when we said that we're coming, you have invited us to come and have this conversation this evening, they said, tell the president that he's tone deaf. And we ask why and how. And they say, when William Ruto took over as president, he took over a budget of 3.2 trillion shillings. He went to Parliament and he said, Honorable Speakers, I believe that this budget is too high. We should cut it by 300 billion shillings. So you believed barely 1.5 years ago that you can run the country with 2.9 trillion shillings. Barely a few months, you went to Parliament and requested to spend 3.6 trillion shillings. This year, you went to Parliament and initially requested to spend 4.2 trillion shillings. And what do they see in return? They see extravagance in government. They see a government that is pushing gung-ho to employ new people called CASs. They see a government that is purchasing new motor vehicles and trips that are extravagant. They see opulence with those that are close to the president appearing in public carrying wads of cash. They see condescending attitude from those who serve in this government when they're asked, why are you spending? And they respond the way they respond. Your advisors speaking the same. And so they see a government where The president is telling people, we are going to live within our means. We are all going to tighten our belts. We have austerity. They end up with their children not going to school because for months JS teachers are on strike. They end up with, right now, 91 days where clinical officers have not been to work. 91 days, Mr. President. We ended up with intern doctors going on strike for weeks because the government says it has no money. We end up with people going to the hospitals and there's no medicine. We end up with people who are being told that we don't have money to pay salaries, or we don't have money to pay salaries and also having development. Yet, they see all this extravagance and opulence from those in power. You are tone deaf, Mr. President, that's what they say.
Well, I guess that's why we must have a conversation. That's why we must have a conversation. And I'm very happy for us to have this conversation so that we can put the facts on the table and we can all of us make a decision. But let me tell you the following. I've listened to you, and let me also tell you that today, the universities, which were almost closed, they had debts of 60 billion shillings. I have enhanced their budget by 40 billion shillings, the universities, because education to me is very important. It is the greatest equalizer. Today, the universities can confirm to you, and I was sitting here with the vice chancellors, that I made the right decision because we are funding the universities better. Let me also tell you, I took the decision to hire additional teachers, 56,000. It has never happened in the history of Kenya. Why? Because education is the greatest equalizer. Many parents in rural Kenya take their children to schools that have no teacher. And we are disadvantaging them. The children of the poor get the worst form of education. They have no chance. I decided, because I said it is bottom up, I decided that I'm going to put more money in making sure the child of every Kenyan has an opportunity to be their best by giving them the correct education. I decided that I am going to put money in farming. The first year, I put 10 billion shillings in fertilizer subsidy, a program that had been scrapped for 5 years. The difference is obvious. Today, by God's grace, we have a harvest. The prices of food commodities has come down. Day before yesterday, Latif, there was a release of where we are with inflation. Inflation in Kenya is now 4.6%. When I came into office, it was 9%. Inflation coming from food products. It was reported not by me, by the institutions that are charged, 4.6%. We have, where I have invested money, I can account for it.
Right.
And it is making a difference in the lives
Their
of
concern
many.
is on extravagance in government.
I will come to
opulence in government.
on opulence and extravagance. Every trip I have made, I have not made any trip outside Kenya to go and do things that are of no benefit to this nation. I can account for every trip that I have made outside our nation, whether it is on projects or programs or investments or even the profiling of this country to put it in good standing for us to attract investment. In fact, the Nairobi Stock Exchange, which was almost closed, was rated the best in the world. Not said by William Ruto, but it was in the public domain by Bloomberg. If you don't believe me, believe Bloomberg.
Mr. President,
So I have done what I could for the country.
You have
But
not
let me
answered-
finish
you have not answered the
opulence.
questions.
Let me go to the opulence. And let me be very clear that the display of insensitivity is a statement that has come to me, and is a sentiment that has come to me, and you will see something very different going into the future, whether it is coming from my staff, whether it is coming from this office. And I know people have raised issues of CAS, for example. I deliberately, even after Parliament had approved the position of CAS, I have not appointed any CAS because I realized that we were in a situation that we could not. And no CAS will be appointed until we have an economy that can support more opportunities. I know citizens have said that there is no need for the office of the First Lady or Second Lady.
Third Lady.
These are offices that were there. But because we have to live within our means, those offices from tomorrow, this new budget which is starting tomorrow, they will not be part of our equation, because in the face of what has happened, we have to trim down every other area. And in fact, not just those, many other spaces are going to be trimmed down to reflect the new reality, especially after the finance bill was taken down by myself. When I said we take this down, we are going to cut our cloth. We are going to cut our
coat.
Our coat, the size of our cloth. We're going to reduce money going to counties. We're going to reduce money going to the judiciary. When I came into office, the judiciary was getting 18 billion. Today, they are getting 25 billion. But it was because I believed in the rule of law. I believed that we needed to do something about making sure that our judiciary has resources, because Kenyans were telling me directly, justice delayed is justice denied.
Will you
I
cut
have
the size
hired
of your government?
the highest number of judges under my administration, because I believe that Kenyans must deserve justice.
Will you reduce the number of ministers, ministries, or state departments, or advisors?
That is an area we are going to target and cut down, because it is the reality we have to face.
Mr. President, when things like this happen elsewhere, this